Today we're comparing Fedora 44 and Ubuntu 26.04. On the left side of the screen will be Fedora 44 and the right side will be Ubuntu 26.04. They both use GNOME 50, but they are not trying to be the same operating system. So in this video we're going to take a look at everything from the installer to doing a Fastfetch, first login, check for updates, as well as take a look at the different release cycles. By the end of the video, you'll know which distro is right for you. Let's start with the basics. Fedora 44 Workstation ships with GNOME 50. Ubuntu 26.04 LTS also ships with GNOME 50, but Ubuntu's focus is very different. This is an LTS release, which means Canonical supports it with security updates and critical bug fixes for 5 years, until April 2031. So the big difference is philosophy. Fedora is usually the more faster moving desktop. Ubuntu LTS is usually the long-term support option. That does not automatically make one better than the other. It just means they're aimed at different kind of users. GNOME 50 includes enhanced parental controls, accessibility improvements, a new reduced motion option, modernized annotations and document viewer, improvements to files, calendar updates, better VRR and fractional scaling support, and color management updates. That makes this comparison especially interesting, because if you look at only the version number of GNOME, you would think that they're very similar. But once you move through the actual operating system, the differences start showing up in the installer, software management, the default update behavior, and long-term support model. Starting with the installers. Fedora 44 includes an Anaconda change where fresh installs now create network profiles only for network devices configured during the installation, instead of creating default profiles for every device. Fedora says this should simplify the post-install network configuration for users who customize networking later. For this part, I'm looking less at marketing and more at the actual flow. How many steps does it take? How clear is disk partitioning? How easy is it to understand what's about to happen? And which one feels better for a normal desktop install? Now we're at the first login. Fedora 44 Workstation is running GNOME 50. And Fedora's release notes highlight desktop refinements covering accessibility, color management, remote desktop, and improvements to the default apps like Document Viewer, File Manager, and Calendar. Ubuntu 26.04 also includes GNOME 50, but Ubuntu adds its own desktop changes, including App Center improvements, Security Center, improved Snap integration, and Ubuntu Insights controls and settings. They both have a Wayland-only desktop session. This is where the same GNOME version thing starts to get more nuanced. Fedora tends to feel closer to upstream GNOME. Ubuntu adds Ubuntu-specific pieces around software management, security controls, telemetry consent, and Snap integration. Alright, let's check the settings. GNOME 50 brings several settings-related changes, including improved variable refresh rate, fractional scaling support, a reduced motion option, date and time settings that can set the first day of the week, and accessibility improvements. Ubuntu 26.04 also adds graphical Ubuntu Insights management controls under Privacy and Settings, which is inside a telemetry panel that replaces the older diagnostics panel. This is one of the best places to compare the feel of the two distros. Fedora gives us the Fedora Workstation take on GNOME. Ubuntu gives us GNOME with the canonical desktop integrations layered in. Now let's open HTOP. This is not a lab benchmark. This is a real-world look at what each system is doing in this specific recording. We're looking at CPU activity, memory usage, number of processes, and what's running in the background, sitting here idle. Live HTOP numbers vary by hardware, VM settings, updates, drivers, and recording tools. The reason I'm running HTOP is because it's useful to see how each compares sitting idle. I don't want to overclaim anything here. If Fedora uses less RAM in this install, that's just this install. Same with Ubuntu. But this is still useful because it shows what the desktop looks like in practice. Now we'll switch to BTOP for a more visual system monitor. This lets us look at CPU, memory, disk, network, and process activity in a way that's easier to compare side by side. This is also a good place to remind everyone, one boot on one machine does not equal a universal performance verdict, but it does give us a practical snapshot. Ubuntu 26.04 replaces the older GNOME system monitor with the application resources in the GNOME environment. Resources monitors CPU, memory, GPU, network, storage, and power usage. It can group processes into apps, track GPU usage, show hardware statistics, and it uses GTK4. So if you're coming from an older version of Ubuntu, this is one of the places where the desktop will feel newer. GNOME 50 brings several improvements to Files. According to GNOME's release notes, Files has performance and stability improvements, faster thumbnail and icon loading, reduced memory usage, a reworked batch rename feature, updated file property windows, and improved search filtering. Now let's look at appearance. Ubuntu 26.04 includes Yaru theme updates, and the release notes say Yaru has moved closer to the look of the upstream GNOME theme, while also receiving many icon updates. Fedora Workstation ships GNOME 50 and stays closer to the upstream GNOME look. Fedora's own release announcement points users to the GNOME 50 release notes for the desktop refinements in the workstation. This is one of the sections where there is no objective winner. Some people want the clean upstream GNOME feel, some people prefer Ubuntu's Yaru identity, dock, accenting, and out-of-the-box visual setup. So I'll show you both, and you can decide which one you'd rather look at every day. Now let's open Firefox on both systems. For this section, I'm looking at first launch behavior, default browser integration, whether anything distro-specific appears, and how each system presents the browser out of the box. Normally, they will have the same version. Now let's take a look at the software management. Fedora 44 uses the DNF package manager to where Ubuntu is based on Debian, so it's going to use the apt. Their software stores are very similar. Fedora uses the built-in GNOME to where Ubuntu has its own App Center store that has a heavy integration based on snap packages. This is one of the biggest practical differences between Fedora and Ubuntu. Even if both are GNOME desktops, how you install software, update apps, manage permissions, and deal with package formats can make the day-to-day experience feel very different. There's one interesting overlap here. Both releases mention NTSYNC in some form. Fedora 44 enables the NTSYNC kernel module for selected packages by package recommendation, notably Wine and Steam, which can improve compatibility and performance when running Windows applications, especially games. Ubuntu 26.04 also includes a new NTSYNC driver that emulates WinNTSYNC primitives and is described as delivering better performance, potentially for Windows games, running under Wine and Proton. Now let's run Fastfetch. This gives us a clean side-by-side look at what each operating system reports. OS, kernel, desktop environment, windowing system, packages, shell, resolution, and hardware. Ubuntu 26.04 ships with Linux kernel 7.0. Fedora 44 did not originally ship with kernel 7.0, but it does now. Fastfetch is one of my favorite parts of these videos because it pulls everything together visually. Now let's talk about release cycles because this is one of the most important differences. Fedora provides approximately 13 months of support for each release. Ubuntu LTS releases come out every 2 years and receive 5 years of standard security maintenance. Ubuntu 26.04 LTS is supported until April 2031, and Ubuntu Pro can extend expanded security maintenance to 10 years. So if you like newer Linux desktop technology and you're comfortable upgrading more often, Fedora makes a lot of sense. If you want to install something and stay on it for years, Ubuntu LTS might make more sense. So who should pick Fedora 44? Based on what you've seen, Fedora 44 makes sense if you want to stay with the GNOME 50 upstream. It also makes sense if you like the Fedora release model, you don't mind updates more frequently, and you enjoy having a newer desktop experience. So who should pick Ubuntu 26.04? Ubuntu makes sense if you want GNOME 50 inside a long-term support release. With Ubuntu, you get 5 years of standard support. with the option to bump up to 10 with the Pro plan. Keep in mind you will be subject to Canonical's infrastructure, so that means snap packages. So the final verdict. Normally I just end these videos and I don't really give my opinion on them. This time it's going to be a little different. So for me, I pick Fedora 44 as my daily driver. One, it's got excellent Flatpak integration. Plus I capture these videos with an Intel B580 and the A1 encoder on that just works flawlessly in Fedora. And that's going to conclude Fedora 44 versus Ubuntu 26.04. Let me know which one you would choose in the comments section below. I read and respond to each one of them. If you got anything out of this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.